Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. A new world order is emerging, and that is two sides. As we all know, the Russians, the Indians, the Chinese, the rest of the world try to form or promote a fairer international order. So this comes from Xi Jinping. That's the first topic that we're going to discuss this morning on the 26th of August 2025. The next topic, I will show you how fair the other side is. Therefore, this side needs to promote a fairer world order. We have the example of Hungary at this moment, very easy, and Mr. Orban threatens Ukraine. Now, Mr. Orban is the Prime Minister of Hungary. Hungary is a member state of the European Union and NATO. And a country, an outside country, which is Ukraine, decided to threaten the national security of this country, which is Hungary, by bombing on 3 occasions one oil pipeline that comes from Russia, called Druzhba friendship, and that threatens the survival, the economic survival of the Hungarian people. Therefore, Viktor Orban, as a good prime minister that he represents his people, he told the European Union, I expect you to help us against these guys. And this is evidence that these guys in charge of the Ukrainian nation, non-Ukrainians, according to my feelings, actually with other things too, these guys just show their face. They threaten us and they try to blackmail us, which is Hungary. They try to conduct a little terrorist operation against us by destroying or trying to affect our economy in order for us to change our political views. Now, that is the definition of terrorism, applying force to change someone else's opinion by, creating panic and disorder. That's the second one. And the third one, Orban threatens Ukraine. Unfortunately, see, he threatens the Ukrainian nation instead of the guys in charge of the Ukrainian nation. And the last topic is Mr. Rubio, the Secretary of State of the United States of America. He met today the representatives from the European Union and from Ukraine to discuss the negotiations, the security guarantees, Putin, Zelenskyy possible meeting, and so on. That is, the United States of America said, okay, it's time to put all the cards on the table and see exactly where we are and let the kindergarten game be over. So, and that shows me again the fairer world order promoted by the United States of America, who they slap whomever they want with sanctions, blackmail, regime change, and all of the above, including direct bombardment. And that is what Xi Jinping, can you believe, the Chinese communist, wants to make it fairer than the American world order, which is based on you do what I tell you, otherwise I will hurt you. Well, you can do that to a certain extent if you are a parent and you try to, educate a child, help the child to overcome challenges in life. But the United States of America is just another country like everybody else. The problem is it doesn't operate as it's supposed to. International law, equal rights, sovereignty, independence. They operate like a thug in the neighborhood. See this? You do what I tell you, otherwise you're gonna get it. All right, let's start with the first one. And unfortunately for us, at least in words, China and Russia are moving further away from the world order, which is very fair. Here's the first article. China, Russia should promote fairer international order. That means we have a club and people will join here. As I said, you have Al Capone's plantation, which is the United States of America and its vassal states, and the other option is China, Russia. I know, the bad guys. We are supposed to dislike them very much. Why? Because the media operatives tell us, and the politicians, we should, and Hollywood, of course. So these guys tell us we should dislike those guys because the elites dislike them. As Putin said, Russia doesn't have how do you call it, enemy countries or something like this. Has only elites, unfriendly. He said unfriendly countries. Russia doesn't have unfriendly countries, referring to the people, obviously. Russia has only unfriendly elites from abroad. So that's some elites with some interest. So let's see what kind of world order these guys want to promote. China and Russia should promote the development of the international order in a fairer direction, Chinese President Xi Jinping said on Tuesday. On Tuesday, Xi Jinping met with the Russian State Duma chairman Vyacheslav Volodin in Beijing, and I'm quoting, "The parties should uphold true multilateralism and promote the development of a fairer and more rational international order." So what does it mean? So multilateralism, that means not one country and that's it, more than one. So that's one. The next one, he says that development of a fairer and more rational. So that's logos, not pathos, with brain, not with passion. All right, next one. So that's what these guys say. Now let's go to Hungary. Hungary expects Ukraine, the European Union, to fulfill promises on Druzhba pipeline security. Now, here, Hungary is a member state of the European Union. The European Union is located in Brussels, head office. So these guys, the European Union, should promote the interests of the member states. And this is not a member state, this is an outsider. Wants to get into the European Union, but the European Union has its regulations and ways to accept or not accept countries, unless the countries, fulfill some expectations. There's, some criteria. Well, the Ukrainians say, no, you should do it nevertheless. We think we already met the criteria, and we're going to make Hungary, the ones that say, well, I don't think you did, make them change their mind. How? By cutting the oil supply that Hungary needs from Russia, under the pretext of war. And Mr. Zelenskyy threatens Hungary publicly, saying that Druzhba, the friendship between you and I, depends on the European Union. We can blow it again and you are going to be not doing well. Now, what do you expect the European Union or NATO, Hungary is a NATO member state, to do? Well, they should intervene. They should defend their member state against those thugs who blew up that pipeline 3 times. Now, I know you can say, well, Emil, it's a war, it's a war, it's a war. It is true, but that affected Hungary. You know what I mean? It was not something that affected necessarily the Russians as much as affected Hungary. And excuse me, if you fight your neighbor and you beat up my child in the process, well, I will come and smack you real time. All right? So, let's go. Hungary expects the European Commission and Ukraine to fulfill their security obligations regarding the safety of the Druzhba oil pipeline. Head of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's office said on Monday. On Friday, Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó said that the oil supplies to Hungary via Druzhba had been stopped for the 3rd time due to yet another Ukrainian attack. Supplies to Slovakia have also been stopped. Slovakia is also disagreeing with Ukraine joining the European Union. And these guys, the guys in charge of Ukraine, act like they do in the Middle East. We're gonna make you. Slovakia and Hungary filed a complaint with the European Commission about the interruptions in oil supplies via Druzhba due to Ukrainian attacks. Right? We expect everyone to comply with their obligations and rules, both the European Union and Ukraine, Gulas told a government briefing. So why would you even beg the Europeans? Well, because the European Union, the guys in Brussels, they don't care about you. They care about the guys in charge of Ukraine more than you. Even if you're a country that you're a member, doesn't matter. We have to love Zelenskyy. All right, more than your wife, your children, your family, your parents. So, and this is what the Orban eventually says. Ukraine doesn't deserve EU membership. Budapest today, August 26th. Kiev's attacks on critical energy infrastructure are unacceptable, he said. Ukraine cannot force its way into the European Union through extortion, bombings, and threats. Well, that's true, I guess, right? And again, Ukrainian forces have struck the Druzhba friendship pipeline several times this month, halting the flow of Russian oil to Hungary and neighboring Slovakia. Right? Vladimir Zelenskyy remarked on Sunday, right here, with a smile and a play on the pipeline's name, which is called Druzhba Friendship, that Kiev's quote-unquote friendship with Budapest depends on Hungary's stance. Alright? Orban describes Zelensky's comments as a public threat and a confession that Kiev had internationally jeopardized his country's energy security because we don't support their EU membership. This shows that the Hungarians made the right choice. End quote, Orban added. Alright, next one. Hungarian Prime Minister threatens consequences, quote-unquote, over Zelensky's remarks. Not public threat, remarks about Druzhba pipeline. The problem is, the guys in Europe will be affected and they will not blame Zelenskyy and others. They will blame the Ukrainians. A lot of refugees from Ukraine obviously ended up in many countries, Romania, Poland, Germany, and others that allow them to show up over there. I think in Poland more than 1 million Ukrainians. They will show who they are. Remember, they say mainly women and children, but if you watch those videos with those guys at the concert, those were sturdy guys, remember? So these guys will see firsthand who some Ukrainians are. And the consequences of that war will have a lot of Ukrainians living among them in their countries, like in Germany, like in Poland, and so on. And these guys, with time, their children, their grandchildren, will get into positions of power in their country. They will be native Ukrainians, genetically Ukrainians, but they will be called Polish citizens. And they will push to destroy Russia if Ukraine is destroyed now, using the Polish people once they are in power. Like, for instance, Victoria Nuland is doing right now. Or many, like Freeland in Canada. Or Blinken. If you look at their origin, or Pritzker, if you want, of Illinois, these guys have a history with Russia. It's a payback, baby doll. They try to use the Europeans against the other Europeans, which are the Russians. So be careful. These guys will will climb in your society, and at one point they will try to use your children to settle their past scores with whomever enemy they have. They've been doing this for many, how do you call it? I don't want to say decades, but more than decades. And who's they? You know exactly who I'm talking about. There's no surprise that Mr. Zelenskyy, Shmihal, Reznikov, and Yermak were in charge of Ukraine when the broke out again in Ukraine. All right, let's move on. Hungarian Prime Minister threatens consequences. Okay, Hungarian Prime Minister has described Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's remarks. You see, Zelenskyy is the president, but he missed elections for about a year and a half. But Putin is the dictator, but he held elections last year. So Zelenskyy's remarks about the Druzhba oil pipeline as, and I'm calling blackmail and threats, I think it fits the definition, adding that they would have long-term consequences. The Hungarians do not forget. Ask the Romanians if you know what I mean. If they forget. And they shouldn't. Why should they? New voice of Ukraine. Orban lashes out at Zelenskyy over Druzhba pipeline. So you see, who is the victim here? Zelenskyy. Like always, the perpetual victim right there. Forever. So Orban lashes out at Zelenskyy. Not that Zelenskyy was a piece of shit, trying to get the Ukrainians and the Hungarians bad blood now. Remember, like always, they will try to pick their hot potato from the fire with someone else's hands. The greatest example is with your Jesus Christ and Pontius Pilatus. They got him killed by the Romans. Who wanted him killed? All right, Zelenskyy. There you go. Let's move on. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's alleged open attacks and threats against Budapest will not go unpunished. You see, they're alleged. That didn't happen. Just say they are, but they're not. And I'm quoting, "It was a tense weekend. President Zelenskyy openly threatened Hungary. He admitted that the Druzhba gas pipeline is not working because we do not support their EU membership. This also proves that Hungarians made the right decision," Orban claimed, adding that Ukraine, and I'm quoting, "cannot join the EU through blackmail, bombings, and threats." Now, if you would have that, I don't know how to explain it clearer than this. I mean, for me, it's clear enough. It's the same thing with Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines, sabotage, explosions, my bad. We don't know who did it, but you have a country, one, not many, one country, you have their officials, the highest elected officials, President Biden and Victoria Nuland and others, saying if Russia invades or attacks the poor people of Ukraine, we will stop the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines. We will stop it. Who's we? How are you going to stop? You have nothing to do with it. You're outside of it all. It's about Ukrainians and the Russians. Who are you? So when that happened, the prime suspect was what? They tell us some Ukrainians with a yacht, 6 guys with a woman on the yacht having some party. Are you kidding me? All right, so the prime suspect in any investigation, it's by far the person who said, "We will stop it." Now, if someone tells you, if you get on my property, you might get a bullet somewhere, and that happens, what do you think the police will do? Go to the person who made the first threat, and that's a threat. You can say, well, that's the consequences. Okay, take it that way. This is the consequence of your behavior. All right, well, then you have my consequences of your behavior, and that is the European Union should back me against you. Therefore, a fairer law, what was the term these guys used? Fairer international order. Not even within them, the jackals care for them. It's like a pack of wolves, even though the wolves, care for one another. But if one gets wounded, he gets eaten. So here, they want to take care of Hungary. So the European Union, some Western elites. So what do? They don't care. They hope Orban goes away and a yes sir guy comes up. And he's ready over there. I saw him. He's tall, he's handsome, he's articulated. The one that would get half of the population ooze. I mean, look at Orban and the other guy. Women will be all wet around, you know what I mean? Yes, that plays a big role in elections. Exactly. I said it. All right, next one. And we're going to have Rubio meets with you. When do you think Bill Clinton was elected? Go and ask some women and you're going to find out. All right. You don't believe me? And I don't think Bill Clinton was handsome, just so you know. I think he was... Anyway, I can think of others, other men that would be more presentable. But hey, women are as they are, men are as they are. We all the same. All right, let's go to this one. Rubio, new voice of Ukraine. Rubio meets, where am I? Right here. Rubio meets with Ukrainian and EU ministers to advance a lasting peace plan in Ukraine. This guy will probably tell the other two what they're supposed to do, because this is how the fairer international order works. Got that? U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio discussed joint diplomatic efforts for a lasting peace in Ukraine with the country's foreign minister and the EU counterparts. According to him, the talks included the foreign minister of Finland, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, the United Kingdom, Ukraine, as well as EU foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, a know-nothing. Now, why these countries? Why Finland? You can say, well, Finland has a border with Russia. Okay, why France? Well, France doesn't have a border with Russia. Why Germany? Germany doesn't have a border with Russia. Italy doesn't have a border with Russia. Poland has a border with Kaliningrad, a little piece of thing on their north. And United Kingdom does not have a border with Russia. Why are these guys here? Now, if you say, well, the power in Europe, then you should get rid of Poland, get rid of Finland, probably get rid of Italy, and remain with France, Germany, and United Kingdom. So why this country? Where is Romania? Where is Albania? I don't know. Where are they? Well, because fairer international order. We are all equal, but some of us are more equal than others. Okay, Pigot. Piglet, said that parties agreed to continue working together on diplomatic efforts aimed at ending the war between Russia and Ukraine by reaching a lasting peace settlement. Excellent, excellent. I hope the Americans will impose their will on these baboons and they will be able to be rational, as Xi Jinping said. And in Poland, you already have signs where the president vetoed, for instance, right here, vetoed, stop Bandera, the president of Poland vetoed the extension of assistance to Ukrainians who do not work, mind you. They receive about 800 zloty for benefits. Have you seen those guys at the concert with that Belarusian band? All right, those are the children and women refugees in Poland. Germany does the same thing. They said they will stop giving benefits to the Ukrainians. Will those Ukrainians, do you think, ever return? And so on. They are desperate people, but desperate people, you can't care for them forever. They have to pick up their own garbage and make a living in the country. A country that is actually, Germany in this case, becomes bankrupt. But it's a different story. Here is Zelenskyy. And some people will start hating those people who invaded their country. Why? Because of the decisions made by the elite. So we're going to be at each other's throat because we're going to be, why is this guy going to take my job here? Go back to wherever you came from. Why? Because you came here because of that. I know, Putin is the problem. The idea is this. We're going to be at least multipolar world, which is going to be Al Capone, as I said many times before, with his plantation of vassal states and slaves, including one house servant, which is Great Britain, and the other side, they will try to lure the rest of the world into a fairer world international order. Who lost? Well, people who thought that they will dominate the world by force, and that is the United States of America. Unfortunately, they had 34 years or so to have a Pax Americana imposed on this world, but they didn't. What they do? They bombed, changed regimes, and plundered. So now they are surprised that other countries don't want to associate with them. Look at your record. If you think that what happened since 1991, the interventions, global interventions by the US were for the right and for the good, well, see where the consequences lead you, right here. These guys are ganging against us. Why? Because the elites thought that this is enough to straighten things. And the other side developed also a big hand, big arm, and now what are you going to do? You have to use reason. It's hard. It's hard after you're used to use aggression, physical aggression, in order to settle scores always. It's hard right now to say, okay, now I have to think and I have to bring diplomacy back. It's hard. With the people you have, do you think that Rubio is a diplomat? I heard Rubio talk about Russia and Putin. Now he changed tune, but he was the same guy. And now he's like, oh, we have to bring a lasting peace and talk to the Russians. When I see Rubio meeting Lavrov, for me it's like, chameleon. That's what you are. But as a politician, politics should not be like that. This is the degrading political system and class. The politics should not be like that. We're used to it like that and say, oh, it's just politics because we were born under this garbage. But people who saw better and know better realize that this is a degradation of what was before. Not perfect, but I think better than right now. Why? Because right now they own the media, the entertainment, the universities, and they can turn your head wherever they want. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.